to the PRA, who's now 10 years old.
Yeah.
I believe we're already 10. We've got lots of great stuff planned. Anniversary, and no better way to kick off the 10-year than the day after New Year's to be here talking about ham radio, right? So, again, welcome. We're glad you're here. Are we good? Yes?
Yeah, we're actually
Do you need a mic or no?
Yeah, there's a...
Do you need me with a mic?
Yes.
You're allowed now. It's up on the mic.
Is it?
It's right on the chair there.
Sweet.
So again, no better way to kick off the new year than talking ham radio. So again, thanks that you're here. Actually, when we had secured the room, we didn't anticipate that January 2nd would be our date. I feel like we just met last week. We did. So not too much new business to go over, obviously, but the highlight of every monthly meeting is a great presentation. So where's Tom, NI0L? There he is. Tom has a great presentation on NVIS. This is one, I hope you brought a notebook. You're going to want to take some notes. So even if you have a smartphone, start taking some notes on the smartphone. You're absolutely going to love it. Tom put a lot of hard work and effort into it. I think he's also one of the best amateurs that I know because he teaches through trial and error. So we're going to learn from Tom's mistakes over the years to be able to get a great NVIS antenna system up. So Tom, thanks for doing this. So I want to welcome any guests or first-time visitors. Any guests or first-timers? I didn't see any when I scanned the room already. Okay, no guests or first-timers, that's okay. Any new members in the last 60 days? Man, I feel like we all know each other. Oh, we'll start with the leadership introductions. I'm Dan, N2SRK Club President for at least another 2 years?
10 years.
10? Okay. Paul?
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Paul.
How you doing?
Better than I deserve. How about you?
It was a Saturday afternoon. It was. And somebody responded to an ad I had for a radio for sale. This gentleman right here. And we met in a parking lot, a little nervous when I saw him, but
He does look a little shady.
Well, glad you got your eyes checked.
anyway, that's how it all started. Dan said, are you a member of a ham radio club? No, are you? No. Let's start one.
Almost like that, yeah.
Pretty much. So anyway, 10 years is, it's been a good 10 years.
It has.
And it'll be a good 10 years following, I guess.
Absolutely.
So we got a lot of stuff planned for you guys and ladies this year. And so we look forward to meeting every month here. We call this a face-to-face meeting. And anyway, if you're here Thursday night, which is also
2 nights from now.
2 nights from now, we have our Elmer night. And Brad is going to be leading the antenna build. If you signed up for a dipole antenna build, come on down. Please bring your $15 cash donation. U.S. Okay, U.S. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we're going to build those antennas.
No dinars.
If you're not doing an antenna build, we'd like you to come down anyway. Because there's a lot of fellowship that goes on, and we got all kinds of stuff we're going to talk about. And Don might talk about, when he used to be a police officer, before he flew the helicopter for him, before he did many other things. I don't know what Don might talk about. But anyway, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of conversation. So come down Thursday night. Might be a little snowy, but... and we can use help, too. And we can use help.
Yep.
Those people that have... that can just kind of help manage the process, we can use your help. So please come on down Thursday night. Try to battle the weather if you can. And anyway, thank you all for being here tonight.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. Much appreciated. I want to get out of the glare here because if it's not for my eyes, you're getting the glare off my head. Let's see. Let's go to Robert. Robert, or treasurer? Money man. Everyone say hi to Robert. Hi, Robert. Very good. Well, he's on the phone. Never mind. We're going to go to Scott.
Scott, NA0MT, one of
All right, thanks, Scott. Randy?
I just lost 5 bucks. Hi, I'm Randy Kaiser, OTG.
Everyone say hi to Randy. Hi, Randy.
Randy owes me $5.
He owes me 20.
Let's see here, our Chief Technology Officer is figuring things out, so remember that at the next election, he gets another 2 years on top of this one. All right? Years? Yeah, it's like a prison sentence. People commit murder and get less time. And of course, our board chair, Brad? AE0SY. KE0S, wow. Absolutely. Everybody say hi to Brad. Hi, Brad. All right. Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Secretary could not be here tonight. He is he traveling?
He's teaching a class.
Okay,
That's Thursday.
No,
He's teaching
oh, he's got it tonight and Thursday. Okay. Well, there we go. We got it going then. Okay. Very good. Let's see. We've gone through that. Soapbox comments. I'll tell you what. The bands were on fire over the past week. So somebody's got to have some bragging rights about some new contacts. Oh, cut me a break. Glenn. New Guinea. Tahiti. Excellent. What band? What mode? I love it. Good job. Good job. Anyone else?
So last month, I got 2 FDA kinds of things that worked out really well. One was I got confirmation of both officers.
Hey, all right.
And then maybe even more significant, I came across a kind of, not a rare contact, but a very significant one, N2 SRK.
Well, it's in the lot. You got 200 volunteer on the air points for that contact, by the way. So there you go. Yeah, NVIS worthy, right? Excellent, thanks. Anyone else? I got New Caledonia. Ooh, yeah, I picked up that one Saturday. I think that was Saturday on 10 meters, which was fun. All right, now the fun part. New candy. Who got a new radio for the holidays? Nobody? Come on. All right. Go ahead, Craig.
Well, since I won the Yesu that, I had to do these, so you get
I already forgot, FP5, F whatever. Yes.
All right, the handheld. Awesome. Great handheld. Very good. Anyone else? What, you guys get cold this year or what? Jeez. We just buy throughout the year, right?
Every day is Christmas, right?
That's the way I look at it. All right, good deal. So we're through our soapbox comments. Usually we'll turn it over for the monthly presentation, but since we just met last week, we're going to call an audible, and we're going to blast through the announcements. The money hasn't changed in 2 weeks, so we're fine. Right, Albert? Okay. Good enough there. So let's go through some of the current topics. Paul, you had something on Winter Field Day.
Yeah, just real quick, we're going to go up to Stan's place again on the 27th, and where's Stan? Thank you, Stan.
Yay!
And what a beautiful place for a field day or anything else, as far as that goes. 27th, we're going to be setting up stations and running field day. You can do your own thing by going out in the 80 acres and setting up your own station, or you can work the club station that'll be in Randy's trailer. If you are signed up for the HF 101 class, we're going to be having that class out there during the day. So come on out and learn some stuff about HF. We have a grill, or a couple grills out there, and so bring whatever you want to grill for lunch. chicken burgers or whatever. If you want to bring something potluck, you're welcome to do that. If you want to bring a pot of chili or whatever, that's fine, but it's not really a potluck. But some people said, hey, I'd like to bring some chili, or I'd like to bring this. That's fine. But also just bring whatever you want to throw on the grill. And if you want to bring some dessert or whatever for people, that's all good as well. We'll have some heaters going in the barn, but I don't know that we're going to need them because Stan always
Every year.
guarantees good weather.
Good weather, Stan.
I will kid you not, a couple of years ago, it was the 28th of January or whatever, and it was 60 degrees out, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was actually warmer at Winterfield Day than it was at
It was.
at June Field Day.
Yeah, we had all that sleet and snow and ice and everything in June. So,
Yep.
Anyway, so come on out on the 27th. We run it from about 8 till 3 or 3:30. You can come out for part of the day or for the whole day. If you want to learn about QRP rigs, there'll be a bunch of people, I think, that'll be setting up stations. You can go look at those. If you want to learn about HF, we'll have a class. It's our first class on HF. There's actually HF1 and HF2, but we're going to do number 1 on the 27th and bring something out to put on the grill.
Do you need to sign up for the class?
We would prefer an email if you can send it to the board at parkerradio.org. We just kind of like to know how many people are coming. We've probably got about 6 or 7 people, and we can probably handle about 15 or so.
Perfect.
So let us know if you want to come out. And what else do we have on field day, Scott? Anything
Two
else?
pieces to
Two
that.
pieces.
So those attending HF 101, we will get you on the air. We want everybody
Oh, yeah.
to make contact.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 is for the antenna build in 2 nights. Please bring those antennas out with you, and we will help you trim them because we need some free space to do it. It's not going to happen here. So that'll be the opportunity where we can help you. We'll have the analyzers there, and we can help you get them up in the air, and we'll show you how to trim them up. And,
Get them dialed in.
balanced. Yep.
Get them dialed in.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Robert, you had something.
What time frame? Time frame is the calendar?
8 till 3:30.
Okay.
So you can come out as early as 8, you can come out, noon, whatever.
Class will be at,
I believe we're in the class at, I think it was at 9:30.
okay.
We'll send something out on that. Any questions about Winter Field Day?
What's the official time of Winter Field Day? Not the PRA one, but
We don't know because we're really not out there.
No.
We'll start when the contest starts, and we're going to keep a log, but we're not really necessarily, that was a joke, I was saying, we don't really get on the radio. But we do eat, for sure. That's absolutely positive fact. So we'll figure that out and get that out in the email as well. That's the 27th. How many people are coming? Yes, all right, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Paul, while I have you, we have 2 upcoming training events, January 21st and January 28th.
Correct. There's actually 3.
And then at Winter Field Day.
The 21st will be part 2 for our VHF, UHF training. And it's going to focus mainly on programming. But we're also going to review some of the stuff we covered in the first meeting. We had some people had some questions after the class about offset and a few things like that. So we'll review a few things from the first class, and then we're going to dig deep into radio programming. Okay, so if you have a laptop, you have to have programming software on it. If you have a handy copy, whatever, mobile, bring it down. We'll go through programming. The 28th, I realize, is one day after field day, but we are going to be doing a class on digital. And again, there's 2 parts, Digital A, or Digital 1, Digital 2. Digital 2, I'm going to go there first.
Okay.
Digital 2 is going to be about HF digital operations. And the class on the 28th is going to cover DMR, D-Star, and Fusion. And we're going to go we have 2 hours, I believe. We're going to go in as much depth there as we can. So if you've heard about the digital modes, you've never operated the digital modes, come out. We'll do our best not to confuse you. And Scott and I are going to have to study up on it too, because it's not everything we know. We don't know everything there is. So that's on the 28th, and we'd love to see everybody out there. And it is in Lone Tree.
Yes, the Douglas County Library in Lone Tree. Not here, Lone Tree. So where,
In Yosemite.
yes, so where's it at? Lone Tree.
You do not have to have a digital radio to show up for this. No. Just come on out. And maybe if you're thinking about buying a digital radio, this is a really good opportunity, because the questions always get asked, the questions asked, should I get a DMR, should I get a D-Star, should I go with Fusion?
Yes.
And maybe if you haven't bought one yet, we'll cover those three modes, and so it may help you make a decision on that.
Excellent.
When is it and where?
Lone Tree. Gary, you got me on that one.
One more announcement, that it's Jerry threw himself into the thunderstorm here. Oh,
I need Pete up there for just a second.
I just wanted to let everybody know that Parker Days is right around the corner. So we need to start thinking about that. Actually, June 13th to 16th, but the club has agreed again to do Parker Days again. So we're going to start putting that in you're planting that seed so that hopefully vacations don't drive over that time. If they do, they do. But the club will be doing Parker Days again this year, June 13th to the 16th. And we would really appreciate everybody's support. So I'm going to be working a little bit with these guys on that. So, but anyway, planting that seed early. So thank you, Dan.
awesome, thank you.
He's not necessarily working because he's in charge of Parker Days. Just haven't called him that yet.
But tonight's a good time.
So Pete.
Round of applause for Pete, yay! Obviously, getting back to Jerry here, who jumped into the thunderstorm. Last week, I had mentioned, hey, we don't have an Elmer night scheduled because the library kind of said, oh yeah, by the way, we're closed that night that you scheduled, and took our reservation. Jerry was wonderful enough to secure us an Elmer night location for February. So mark your calendars, February the 19th, starting at 6 p.m. The address, if you're ready to copy, 8527 Lone Tree Parkway, in where? Lone Tree. And Jerry, I want to thank you for helping us get that set up.
This is the city council building where the city council meets, and it's halfway between 470 and Lincoln on Yosemite.
Perfect. Perfect. So anybody need that address again? The date is February 19th,
At 6 o'clock.
6 p.m. kickoff.
We can run that one till 8:30 or 9.
Yeah.
Jerry got us some extra time.
Awesome. All right. Any other announcements? Any new business? All right, well, this is the favorite part of the meeting, for me at least it is. Every month we have a member who presents on something amateur radio related. Tom has put together, again, a great presentation on NVIS. If you have a notepad, notebook, pen, paper, you're going to need it. If you got the telephone, the smartphone, take some notes on that. There's some great content in here, but this is just an example of how great our membership is here at the
Are
PRA.
the slides going to be available?
We can,
The slides are going to be available.
send them to them, we can.
We just put it in the forums.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
Done deal. So this is a great example of our members giving back into the organization. And every month we're just so proud to have members come out and be able to present on a topic amateur radio related. I know for me, there hasn't been one meeting or one presentation that I haven't learned something new. So this is really cool. So without further ado, Tom, I'm going to kick it over to you, give you the mic and the floor, and
So there will be a presentation, set of slides, and then there's a spreadsheet with the data in it. Trying to put the spreadsheet into the slides was painful, so I'm just going back and forth between them. So I'm Tom, NI0L, been a member here 5 or 6 years, And what we're going to try do tonight is antenna ideas and some testing that I've done. Antennas in general can have a lot of voodoo, a lot of black magic, whatever you call it, involved with it. And especially NVIS antennas, do they really work like we thought they should, that kind of thing. So I did a bunch of testing and got some data, and we'll take a look at that. And that's basically what we're going to do tonight. Okay, so NVIS antennas, there's a little bit of naming nomenclature that I want to make sure we understand. One set of NVIS antennas is basically a deployment or a use of a regular antenna that we'd use somewhere else in a way to modify the antenna's pattern. In other words, you get it much closer to the ground. And we'll talk about how far off the ground and look at that. There are also antennas that are designed to be NVIS antennas and only NVIS antennas. So it may be a purposeful antenna or just a typical one that is being used to produce NVIS patterns. Okay? And the whole idea behind NVIS is that we want to be able to reach a skip zone, and that gives us local communications. And the other thing is that not everybody in the world can hear you with an NVIS antenna because it tends to fire straight up. And that way you don't interfere with people farther out and they don't interfere with you. So one of the questions is why NVIS antennas for local communications? Why not use a 2-meter repeater? So the repeaters are a great tool and you want to use them if you have them available. Sometimes they may have limited or no availability of power, or if the internet is out, especially if they're linked, you may be out of luck. And a lot of times in the mountains in Colorado, you may not be able to find a repeater or be able to get to a repeater. So some of the advantages of NVIS is that those antennas are relatively portable. They require, or they have a level, they're relatively low to the ground, so you don't need a lot of support or structures available for them. A lot of times you can use existing structures, such as the fence in my backyard. They can be power self-sufficient because they run off of batteries or solar or something because you're using an HF rig. They are not reliant upon others' equipment. I just learned this phrase, you can't rely upon wires you do not own. Okay? So if you own that wires and the radio and your buddy does, then there is nobody in between that needs to be powered or access to or something like that. And basically, so you own everything that you're trying to use. And the other thing is that the NVIS antennas tend to fire straight up, so they are hard to locate as far as a transmission location. That's something you're trying to do. Okay, so this is a great graphic that tells us somewhat what it looks like. So normal antennas, you're looking for DX, you want a very low angle off of the earth. It's typically about 7 degrees. If you could achieve that, the whole idea is that you get this very long skip NVIS, or a long skip DX thing where it bounces off the ionosphere and then keeps going. And that's one behavior of the antenna, but we're looking for NVIS is to do quite a bit different and basically fire it straight up in a 90-degree angle. The whole idea is it comes right back down on top of you. So imagine taking a garden hose and pointing it straight up, you're going to get a pattern of water to fall back down on you. Here's another example. This area between here and here, I don't know if yeah, we can see it. Right here is called a skip zone. And the problem is that you can talk to this guy out here and he may be in Chicago, but there's a guy in Nebraska that's half or a third of that distance and you can't talk to him because there's no reflection coming back down to him off of the ionosphere. So this is a good example of what NVIS looks like because it goes straight up and straight back down, and you can cover some of this area right here. And that's the whole idea behind it for local communications. The other thing we found is when you basically fire straight up with an NVIS antenna, that the pattern that comes down becomes, it looks like an antenna or almost a hemispherical-ish shape. It's because a lot of these antennas, the one I did testing with, is a dipole. So you end up with the two lobes off of the side. When you get it low enough, it tends to combine all of that and basically go straight up. And then just notice that the coverage area here tends to be more circular or even an oval in shape. Here's another great graphic that's important for us here in Colorado. So if you had a bunch of guys out on a camping trip and you're trying to talk to somebody, you may have a guy here, 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 and here. So this guy over here may not be able to see or get to the repeater that's here that this guy is at. So the idea is that you all could get to a repeater, but if the repeaters are not linked, or the repeaters are not the same one that your buddies can see, the repeaters won't do you any good. So we have a lot of mountains here. This may be a pretty good application for people that want to be able to have radio communications in the mountain, especially in valleys, such as they're depicting here. It's a great way to be able to do it and have a network. So we're going to talk about typical NVIS antennas. This is a military one. It's very simple. It's very, very straightforward. This is basically a quarter wave and a quarter wave, so this is a half wave dipole, and it's about 1/8 of a wavelength off the ground. And converting that as a 0.125, we'll see this number or near this number in a lot of designs. It's fairly close to the ground. And a lot of times it's about 7 feet. And then on the bottom down here across there is a reflector. So the idea is to increase the gain of your dipole antenna, basically, and getting it to even act more of a straight up firing position. So if you look at this, essentially what it is a 2-element Yagi, okay? And you only have the reflectors, there's no directors, and the thing is pointed straight up and down. So that's the idea behind it. We'll see a bunch of variations of that. Here's another version where the wire is a little bit farther off the ground. Again, 0.15 wavelength, which is very close to the ground. And it's a dipole with a reflector. They suggest a 5% length on the bottom, which is exactly how Yagis work. Here's another version. This is an inverted V, and very popular in the military and towards about this. I don't have one of these or didn't set one of these up in order to be able to test it, but we'll talk about that later. But this is another very popular NVIS antenna. And then there's a whole bunch of other ones. So these are typical antennas that are purpose-built for NVIS. There's a whole bunch of them out there. They get very esoteric and kind of silly almost. But one's called a Shirley dipole, and then I'm not even sure what the name is on the right. But do notice that it's 20 feet off the ground, okay? And over here they talk about 11.5 feet off the ground. So again, these are antennas that are fairly close to the ground, don't need a lot of support structure. So there's a million of these out there. I don't know if anybody's ever built one or tried one, but there's a ton of stuff out there to be able to investigate and see if it'll work for you. Okay, so we're going to talk about next the considerations for an NVIS antenna. Things you should think about when you build one and put one up and how it's going to act. So the first thing I want to talk about is the gain versus height, okay? And these are all traces of different antennas. This is in feet along here, these black numbers, and this is in meters. So you'll see that we come up and we max out between here and here. So the highest gain you'll get out of it is about 40 feet off the ground in this case, okay? No point in doing it any higher because you're not going to get any results of it. So, there's no point in spending your money or time and effort in getting it higher than that. But you'll see that peaks out between 30 and 40 feet off of the ground, and we'll see that also in some of the other modeling. My particular antenna is an 80-meter dipole hung on the back of the fence of my house, and it's basically about 5.5 or 6 feet high off of the ground. So when you take a look at this graph, I'm in this area right here. So I did give up quite a bit of gain coming down and having that antenna closer to the ground. Okay, so that's a consideration of NVIS antennas, especially dipoles used in that configuration of how high it is, you're going to have an impact on the gain. So this is some modeling that was done at different heights, and you look at the patterns. This is at 31 feet, okay, which is again between the 30 and 40 feet that we talked about, and you get a 7.52 dB gain. So we go over here at 5.2 feet, which is almost exactly what I've got. We ended up with a gain of -4. Okay, so you gave up quite a bit of gain out of that, getting it closer to the ground. Why would you want to do that? Because it's a whole lot easier to work on, to put up. You can use the existing structures, and you don't have to come up with two different items or structures to hang a 40-foot or hang the dipole across when they're both 40 feet high. And then there's a lot of guys that have them a lot closer to ground. So at 1.7 feet, this is modeled at minus 11 dB as far as gain. And again, you give up more gain as you go farther down. And we looked at the designs with the wires underneath them. This is the models form. What does it get you? So without the wire, they're calling out in this particular model is 4.81 dB. Okay. If you go with a wire underneath it, you get to 6. So you pick up almost 2 dB of gain out of it. Is that worth doing? Well, if your antenna is very close to the ground, then yes, it's very easy to get a piece of wire and literally just lay it right there or suspend it some way. So it shows that that's probably a worthwhile endeavor, a worthwhile effort. And if one wire is good, then why not a couple? So this particular design, again, 7 feet off the ground, has got 3 reflectors on the bottom. And again, to shape the NVIS pattern and to increase the gain. So if 3 is better, then why not more? So here's a design that's got 7 reflectors underneath it. Okay, so according to the models, we have 3 wires. We went from 6 dB to a 7.89, where you almost picked up 2 more dB with 3 wires, and then you pick up almost another dB with more than many, or with many wires here. Okay, so that's one of the considerations. Do you want to put that reflector underneath there? The models say probably worth your time and your money and your effort. Okay. The other thing that's really big about NVIS is what we call the maximum usable frequency. The ionosphere throughout the day, and depending on different conditions like solar flares, it will reflect certain frequencies, and that frequency will go up and down depending on the time of day. And I've got a bunch of data I'll show to you. So if we start on this graph and we look at right here, we're going to make a 30 meter NVIS antenna. We'll see that basically there's only about 2.5 hours right down here in the green, 2.5 hours that it would be predicted to be able to work correctly because of the maximum usable frequency. So if we slide down and we go to here and have a 40 meter frequency that we're using, when you look at all this green, it's about 8 hours. If we slide down to a 80 meter antenna, you basically get from here all the way down to here as it wraps through, and you end up with about 12 hours of predicted time it'll use. The one that covers the whole thing is 160 meters, which is the red part of it, and it includes all the other colors, but 160 meter antennas tend to be pretty problematic because of their size. So I don't have any way to put one up, but you may want to consider that. So looking at this going forward, I was pretty happy with my 80 meter antenna, my dipole, and trying to do some testing on it and see how it works. So this is some real world examples of testing I did. I did it on WSPR. What WSPR is weak signal propagation. I don't even know what the R stands for. What is it? Reporter. There we go. So what WSPR is, it's an incredibly useful tool. It's not perfect. But what you can do is get on there, you have a laptop. This is actually, it's got WSPR on it. It's a free software. It talks through a sound card to your radio, tells it what frequency to be on, and it's got all the timing and the ability to take the data that it hears, that it receives, and push it to a database. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of websites you can look at to look at that data and do a whole bunch of aggregation with it. It's really neat stuff out there. So what happens is you transmit for 120 seconds, and then typically you listen for 4 more of those segments. So you transmit once, listen 4 times, transmit once. And you can actually crank it up and down, but that's typically how it works. So you can do receive only and you can do transmit only. I did receive only for this testing to see what I could hear from other transmitters. And typically they were aggregates of 48 hours of samples. Okay? So to compare it, I compared it to an antenna. This is an Cushcraft AP8 that I have. It's a vertical ground plane antenna, so it's got all these little trombones on it that are resonance. There's a picture of, this isn't my antenna, but this is a picture of it, and then right off of here, coming down to the sides right there at the horizon, is a whole bunch of wires, and they're all cut to different lengths so that they match what's the tuning of the actual antenna. So I bought this used off of Craigslist. The guy didn't even know what it was, for 70 bucks, and it's one of my very favorite antennas. And it works really, really well. Done a lot of testing with it, so I'm fairly confident that the data I'm getting out of it as a reference was good. So I fired up my 80-meter dipole, hung it on the back of the fence. It's about 5 feet off the ground, and started listening. So this is the actual data for 48 hours, looking for data and information that we're going to get and to see if, number one, the thing really does act NVIS, right? Or if it just acts like a regular dipole. And number two, the big question about NVIS antennas is, what is the range of it? So you have your theoretical water that you're shooting up and it comes back down. What are the edges of that? So I just drew some little circles in there just to have some references. But we want to know what that edge of that circle is, how many miles out, and that's going to tell you, am I going to be using or try to use my NVIS antenna versus a different antenna that's going to have a much higher or lower aperture coming off the earth, okay? So here you'll notice that there are a few signals that are very close to Denver. And then the next one I drew, just because it went through Salt Lake City, got me Albuquerque, almost to Kansas. And then the next one, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Tucson, all the way around. Okay. One thing that I've seen a lot on Whisper is that I call it the smile, and you'll get a lot of hits all the way around. But you'll notice there's a quadrant up here that we get very little. And that's one of the problems with Whisper, is that I've been getting hits out there. So number one, did they not hear me? Can I not hear them? Or are they just simply not there? Okay. So you don't know where your holes are. So you have to play with it a little bit and understand that. And I know from all the testing that I've done that there's a huge hole there. So the fact that I'm not hearing or seeing anybody up there is not a problem, because I've never seen anybody up there, never heard anybody up there. So we'll see that pattern in a lot of the testing. So this is the time data. This is starting at midnight through midnight, and you'll see that giant hole in the middle that we have predicted that is a very typical thing. As far as results, as far as it not really wanting to work 80 meters, not really wanting to work during the height of the day. So there's two reasons for that. I could imagine one is nobody's transmitting, or 80 meters is not working very well. But this is a very typical pattern for 80 meters. And then we'll come down. This is my reference antenna, and again, a lot of the same edges, all the coasts and everything in my smile, and there's nothing up here. So that looked very typical for that antenna. And then also notice that there is not many stations in this area right around here. And we'll look at the data and figure out what happened there. And this is the reference antenna, time of day hits, and very typical. Okay? So I took all the data from the AP8, the vertical antenna, and I took all the data from the NVIS antenna. What was interesting to me is what the other ones couldn't see. So any station in the data that appeared on both antennas that I got hits on of that call sign, then I took those out of the data set in order to look at it. So what I ended up with is all the stations that one antenna could see that the other one didn't, and vice versa. Okay? So I'm going to go to the spreadsheet and we're going to look at that. So this is my comparison data for 80 meters. Okay? And if we can see right here, I don't know if you've seen the movie called The Usual Suspects. There we go. So I looked at all the data, tried to figure out what does all this mean? What can we garner from it? Okay? So what I did is I ranked them by the distance. This is in kilometers, and we've converted it to miles over here. So the very closest one was AB4 or AB4BA. Okay, at 14 kilometers is basically 22 miles. It's a really short skip, and I would like to think that was actually a ground wave communication. That short. I don't know if it was NVIS or not, but I always wondered how Skywave at 80 meters, or not Skywave, sorry, GroundWave would work at 80 meters. So I'm not sure I'm going to include that in my data set or not. So we go over here, and the next farthest one out is 17 kilometers is KE0DC. There's also a guy in the club. And again, I wonder if that was the vertical. I wonder if that was not. And what I looked at is I started on one side, and I basically kept a tally, right? Which antenna is farther out did it see, and work our way down the list. So our very first one after that is 32 kilometers. Next one's 32 kilometers. The next one's 113. Next one's 312. So we've got a tally of, if you want to throw the first two out in both data sets, nothing. Okay? So we got 4-0 already for this dipole, which is our NVIS antenna. So the next one after 321, we jump to 444 kilometers, which is 715 miles. So the data is not, I wish I had more data and a lot more conclusive data, but from that I started, basically have thought to myself, my NVIS, from NVIS antenna to my vertical antenna, it is a 715 mile range. Okay? That's when one antenna quits and we start seeing data more from the other. Okay? It's a little thin, but that's what I found with the antennas. The averages, down here on the averages and stuff, they're very similar, but a lot of those numbers are, with the farther distances, sometimes it varies numbers on it. So, was one of the first conclusions fairly exciting. I have a number, which is, I always thought NVIS was maybe 400 to 600 miles, and so it looks like it's 715. And we did see data that like an NVIS antenna, stuff that's close. Okay, so then what I wanted to do is take the same antenna, see if I could get some good data, some decent data on 40 meters, because that would be another popular 40 meters in frequency. So I took the 80 meter dipole and ran it on 40 meters. This is what the model, I found a model, a guy talking about this is what it looked like. So I was a little afraid that I wouldn't get the NVIS performance out of it and not get good data out of it, because that's what the model looked like. So again, if we went through, this is the 5 meter or 80 meter dipole at 5 feet on 40 meters, and very much a very typical pattern. So we go to the vertical on 40 meters, and again, the same, there's more stations here, but basically the same pattern with the same stations missing, okay? So we go to the 40 meter comparison. I basically rank these by distance. And if we start at the top, and there's the dipole, which is the NVIS antenna, and here's the AP8, that's the vertical. If we work down from kilometers, we have 32, and then we go to 102, we go to 444, and then it's a 3 so far for the NVIS, and finally the next data set is one where it swaps over to, over to the vertical antenna. Okay? So where is that distance of swapping from one to the other? And if we go back up to the 444, right here highlighted, again, on 40 meters, we're back to our 715 miles. So data's a little thin, but that's the best evidence I can give you of the fact that it does act like an NVIS antenna. And number two, what is its range? It's basically between 715 and 504, or sorry, 115 and 810 miles. Okay, any questions on that? Yes?
So this was all just received?
This all received, yeah.
Transmit? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it'd be different on the transmit side?
So a lot of the testing I've done, I found that my antennas go out a lot farther than they receive. So that's why I stayed away from the transmit part of it. That is a great question. I should redo the data and see what it does for transmit. But my mentality is that if I can't hear them, right, I can't respond to somebody I can't hear. And so I have the confidence that if I do hear somebody, that my antennas going out tend to be way better in the whisper testing than the receive side. So, yes. So then I put the wire underneath it. So on 80 meters, 5 feet off the ground with the wire, that's our pattern. And we go down and look at this one, and you'll see that they're basically identical. And I looked at that data as much as I possibly could to try it was reasonable, and I could not. So what I'd really love to have that Whisper does not have is a received signal strength or an S meter on it. It has signal to noise ratio, it has a bunch of other stuff, but there is not a, unless I'm misunderstanding it, it does not have that. That would be the thing that I would really love to have. The signal to noise ratios were both 27.0 in both data sets. The wire made zero difference that I can see. But it's an easy thing to do. It's an inexpensive thing to do, especially if you have an antenna that close to the ground, is lay it out and see if it works. So what I took from that is, does it make it better? Does it make it about the same, or does it make it worse? Well, it doesn't make it worse. So in my house, I would put that wire back up underneath there because I know that it's probably not hurting me. Okay? So in conclusion, we're going to talk about the antenna that I was testing and then a few other things about NVIS. So they're cheap and easy to build and tune because it's just a dipole in many cases. They are portable, so for field day or camping or something, if you want to have, talk to the Jeep Club guys, it's a great option. I think that they are worth building and having as far as the time, energy, and money that you would put into one. The other thing is that they're great to hide from the HOA because they are not very far off the ground or from a displeased spouse. So she said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, this antenna in the backyard. She's like, one of the ones I want you to take down. And I said, no, you've never seen it because it's on the back side of the fence. She didn't even realize it was there. Okay? So that may be an option. They work pretty well as far as time and energy put into them, and if you need to hide it, you could just about hide it anywhere on or underneath or over the top of a fence. Okay? Not the best antenna, but it's useful enough to be able to put up and listen to. I counted one time, I think I've got 6 HF antennas, one of which is a receive, and there are times that the best signal I can get is out of this antenna. Not all the time, but there are times that, listening to people and doing an A/B comparison between all those antennas, this one, it works, some portion of that time. And then I've also used it on other frequencies on 20 meter and 40 meters and done Olivia on it and had very good luck with that. So it's not optimal for a lot of those frequencies, but if it's the only one you can put up, it may be worth looking at. So, okay, so any other questions on that? Sure.
How about noise?
It tends to have a lot less noise than the vertical, but you trade gain in noise, usually, if you get more gain, you get more noise, and the same thing. But it is much quieter, significantly, typically about 5 or 6 S units quieter if you went from one to the next back and forth. So that's one of the advantages of it. If you've got a really noisy environment, you may be able to get underneath some of that noise because it tends to get rid of it. So, any other? Go ahead.
Were you running a half wave on that? I didn't hear.
So it's a dipole. It's a half wave center fed. Okay. Yeah, it's got a balun, a homemade balun on it. But it's literally just tacked to the back of the fence. So, good, Rennie?
So then you can't do this with an infant.
You can.
You can go with an infant?
Yep. Half wave is a half wave. That's a whole nother presentation I'd love to do, talking about half waves. But a half wave is a half wave is a half wave. The wire doesn't know as far as how it acts. It doesn't know it's fed out of the center or not. So yes, you could get away with this. I have not done the testing, but there's a lot of guys out there that run infed half waves for NVIS antennas, and there's some huge advantages to it. So, okay, anything else?
We did it on the Jeep trip.
You did,
Back
yes.
From the mountains back to
Yep.
Brian's house in Elizabeth.
Yep.
On an infant. It was an infant. Yeah.
It was on an infant, yes. Yep. Go ahead.
You see a lot of pictures of military vehicles past and
Yep.
present using NVIS antennas, I think. Can you just comment on that?
So a lot of those antennas are quarter wave verticals, right? So the two pieces of the antenna is that quarter wave that whip, and then the vehicle's the other half. Okay? So when you take and you fold it over, you've got one half of the antenna here, and you've got the other, basically an end fed over here. So that is a different setup, okay, than what I was running. So I don't know, it would be a great thing to do, is to fold it over and put it on a vehicle and see how it acts. But that is a quarter wave antenna, and I'm running a half wave here, and the end fed half waves, or the half waves, or the end feds tend to be half wave antennas also. So, but people have done it, and so it must work because every vehicle you see, it's leaning over like that, clear back to from World War II all the way forward. You still see guys with antennas laid over. So, does that answer your question? Okay. Anything else? Okay, so follow-on activities. There's an IMCOM group within the PRA, learning to be able to do things, local communications using NVIS. What I'd like to do is a club-wide test where we have a check-in. We'll probably do it over the 2-meter net, have everybody check in, and then the idea is that everybody can transmit and everybody else can receive, and we aggregate all that data. So it may be that between Stan's house and mine, my antenna transmitting works better than the other antenna I have receiving him. So it would be great to aggregate all that data and put it together, and then we can kind of decide, hey, you know, in 80% of the cases, XYZ antennas seem to work the best. But that would be a great thing to be able to pull all that data together and have an idea. So, and then there's some other advantageous designs. So this is one of them. This was pointed out to me by somebody in the club. I don't have one of these to test, but I figured out how I'm going to put one up to do it. This is called an AS2259 antenna, and it's one of the most popular, the ones you see a lot for use in the military. So they have definitely a use case to be able to have an NVIS antenna. This is a commercial or a version of it, but you'll notice that it's 2.0 to 7.5 megahertz. So when you look at the designs of those, you have to realize that it's built for frequencies that we're not using. You have to convert it, and there's lots of websites about how to take the original Army surplus antenna and put coils in it to make it work, or just change the length of it, okay? But this is the AS2259 antenna. And here's another picture. I looked into doing this and understanding it, and this is a little bit of a misnomer. So I want to point this out to you so you can be really careful about it. It's not drawn to scale, okay? We've got a side right here that's 45 feet, and this is only 15 feet off the ground. So my antenna at home is only right here. So if you do Pythagorean theorem and you do 45 minus the 15 feet, that side length, I drew that in there, is 42 feet. So they show it as being a triangle. It's much, much less than that. It's much closer to the ground and much flatter than they've drawn it. So the advantage is this is not a super tall antenna like it looks. So if you think you can get away with putting this up and keeping it away from your HOA or out of other prying eyes, it's only 15 feet off the ground, okay? So you may be able to hide that. I'm going to hide mine behind my fence and paint the thing camouflage. And most people would never even notice it, okay? So this is another option, very popular. I'm going to put one of these together and test it, but you know, just a thing to think about. And this is where I got a lot of the data, okay? And that's basically it. Any other questions, comments? Oh.
I'm sorry, Randy.
No, I was just gonna say, can you go back to the last one? It went kind of quick and so far.
Sorry, yeah.
Websites. Sorry, Dan.
Okay, go ahead.
So, working with Elecraft as much as I do, the special forces units from a variety of different military branches, they are in fact using a KX2. They order them 5 at a time. One is a base, 4 more are out with their deployment, and they are running NVIS. The base station is running a 100-watt amp with it, but the field units are on QRP at 10 or 12 watts. And they are successfully working in a radius of under 300 miles.
Okay.
with NVIS, and their typical antenna, the best I can get out of them, because it's classified stuff, but the best I can get is it's more of that tent design.
Yep.
With the 15-foot up, and it's coming off on military frequencies, of course. But they are really, really happy with the QRP radio, so you don't necessarily need a lot of power for this to work well.
Yep.
What mode?
Disclosed.
Undisclosed. Okay. And do we have another question?
In the back, I think Tom had one.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to see if you go out to Federal Center, I think it's still there. You'll see a fairly large antenna that kind of looks like a hex beam
Yep.
or a cobweb out there. And what it really is it's a log periodic for NVIS pointing right up.
Okay.
So it looks like a pyramid upside down.
No. Okay, any other questions?
Tom, in
No.
building one of these at home, what should like an average budget be?
So, mine's got a Ballon in it, but I'm not sure if you really need it. So you need the wire, and it can be very inexpensive. I bet you, and then depending on what you want to use for insulators, that antenna had commercial low plastic insulators from Ham Radio Outlet, and they're $1 a piece, the little plastic white ones with the little rings on them. Not including the coax, I mean, it'll be hard to get $20 or $30 into one of them. So not much. It's just plain Jane insulated wire that's THHM wire that came from, it's stranded from Home Depot. So,
Spend more on programming software.
Yes.
for HD.
yeah, so it's about 132 feet long, and you can buy a roll of 250 feet, and I can't remember how much it was, but you can make a couple antennas out of it. Yeah, so very viable for a starter antenna or an extra antenna. So, go ahead.
I just bought some number 12 insulated wire on eBay for $12.
Oh, wow, good.
You criminal.
Yeah, okay.
On Thursday night, I've got, you can make this dipole for 80. And-
Yeah.
And the wire that I've got is thinner wire, it'll support up to 50 watts, it's not gonna support 100 watts, but if somebody wants to make one of these NVISs, an 80 meter, we've got the wire to do it. So you can do that on Thursday.
Okay. So this is an antenna that I've had out at Field Day before and other campouts, and I did have to retune it a little bit as far as its length when you put it down close to the ground. So I've got it marked as far as the long and short part of it, but it's very easy to go from a NVIS tuned antenna back up into the trees. You put put some length into it, and you're back at it. So, okay, Paul.
Tuning, you just mentioned tuning. So, how do these antennas tune? I mean, you're close to the ground. I mean, there's always an optimal height for a dipole or
Yep.
an infed or all that. And if you get that all according to the book, they tune pretty much according to the book, right? I mean,
Yeah.
how does the tuning work on these antennas?
So as far as the bandwidth on it, it's very typical for an 80 meter dipole. One of the things that you hear people talk about 75 meters. Well, what they're talking about is the upper part of the 80 meter band that voice is on. And it's really hard to come up with a dipole antenna that will cover from 3.6 all the way to 4 megahertz. So typically what you've got to do is either pick the top half or the bottom half, or put it in the middle, and realize that if you get out towards the digital CW end of the thing, you're going to end up having to use some sort of a tuner on it. And then there's a lot of activity at 3.9, 3.8, like 3.898 megahertz and stuff. So that pushes you over to the 75 meter part of the spectrum. So this one's actually tuned to be dead on at 3.8. It has a sufficient bandwidth to cover a lot of stuff, and it's not a very narrow bandwidth. It's fairly wide, but I didn't see a whole lot of difference between having it up in the air and down to the ground as far as the bandwidth. So, But, and it's very easy to tune because it's 5 feet off the ground, so you just slide it across the fence. The worst part's getting over the fence and not falling off the ladder, so. That answer your question?
It did.
Okay.
I always chuckle at the optimum height. It's supposed to be half a wave.
Have a lot, yeah,
How many people here have 133-foot towers?
Yeah.
that are 80
yeah. So by default, that's a great point. By default, a lot of dipoles, whether you realize it or not, are probably end up being an NVIS antenna whether you want it or not. Because the highest ones I've ever put up was a field day at 70 feet. Well, at 80 meters, you're still not even close to that half a wavelength. So, okay, any others? Okay, thank you for your attention, and looking forward to doing some more. But this is definitely something you should look into if it garners interest. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. I mean, it's, what's really fascinating behind this is just to tie in with Whisper into all this as well. How many have done Whisper? I know. What's really neat is if you run any of the WSJTX, it's built in. So you can actually run some Whisper off of the same digital software. Oh, I need this. You can run that off of the same digital software that you do with FT8 or FT4 or JT6. How many are doing JT65 lately? I was having a conversation now. PSK31 now. A little bit, yeah. They're there. So, again, Tom, thank you. Just an outstanding presentation and some good stuff there. In particular, that's why I asked about pricing, because cheap ham. And now I feel guilty. I got to build an NVIS antenna because it costs less than the programming software I just bought for programming a mobile radio. So good stuff, Paul.
Well, I'm just suggesting we definitely should set one up in field because you know how we always kind of work.
Yes.
along
Close
the
by.
range, and we're up in the mountains. I think that'd be a very cool thing to do on Friday.
Agreed.
Is build an NVIS antenna and actually use it, test it.
Sounds like a good thing for Elmer Night coming up, right? We could do that. All right. Any other comments for Tom or on the presentation? What's really cool is there's all these notebooks out. Everybody took notes. I saw the camera phones coming out to get pictures. This is really good. Really good indeed. I keep seeing these red tickets passed around. So who's in charge of that one? Randy. What do you got, Randy?
Drawing.
A drawing? Is it like picture pages or?
Everybody got a ticket. It's not a.
Who did not get a ticket? All right. I didn't get a ticket, so I'll draw. Wow.
It's a survival kit. Something,
That one right there.
Something from Wire is really cheap from
Those poor children that made it. All right. So we have a drawing. We don't know what it is yet. Could be some Temu wire. Just kidding. It's a joke, folks. All right. Who's got their ticket? Are you ready? 6.
Right here.
7. 6. 1. 8. Who's in the running? 67618. 2. Oh! There, Kermit. All right.
Owner of a solar hand crank radio.
Wow. Ooh. All right. Let me see that ticket. I got to verify it. Would that do FT4? Receive only. Oh, bummer. Guy, what else am I missing? I mean, we plowed through this pretty quick. Robert, we got money, right? We talked about training. We talked about Elmer Night this Thursday. Jeff, what do you got, bud?
Summer field day.
Summer.
I was busy over here at the beginning of the meeting. Did we talk about this?
No, well, kind of.
Summer field day is coming. It's the, third full weekend?
The last full weekend in June.
Reservations are now available at the campsite. They always sell out. Go online, do a search for Colorado Campground.
Recreation.gov.
Recreation.gov, Colorado Campground, about 10 miles north of Woodland Park, 8 miles north of Woodland Park. The club has reserved sites 25 through 30, or 25 through 29.
Something like that.
If you want to come up in a tent, you can stay on one of the sites that's already reserved. If you want to bring your trailer up, you can reserve a site on recreation.gov and do it now. Don't wait till March or April because you won't get a site. There's my field day.
That's a really good.
If you don't know that you're coming or not, reserve the site. You can cancel the reservation within, I think, 2 weeks.
Yes.
We don't want you to do that.
Or
but-
swap it off to another club member or something.
Right, so I think we're 23, 24, 25, 20, maybe 24, 25, 26, 27,
Something like that.
So we were around that.
Same place as last year.
Same place as last year.
Perfect.
Get your site, get it now.
Movie night.
Yeah, movie night.
Are we doing movie night again?
I think that was awesome.
Last year, we watched Frequency. You know, we just.
It was great. It was so cool. Until the generator ran out of gas.
Generator ran out of gas.
My bad.
We'll do a movie again this year. I don't know what we're watching, but we just projected it on the side of a white tent. We all sat around in camp chairs and it was awesome.
It was a
I don't
lot
know
of
what
fun.
movie we're doing, if anybody's got
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs?
We'll do a fire starting competition. Craig's not allowed to.
Well, he's got to be the judge.
Yeah.
Are you doing your multi-tool event as
We're
well?
doing a multi-tool event, absolutely.
Yeah, whose Leatherman looks most like Scott's? We go up early, we put up antennas. If you've never put antennas up in 70-foot trees before, it's an experience. We'll have more details as we get closer. There's tons of fun stuff to do up at Field Day. There are some of us, I got my reservation starting on Monday.
Whoa.
We go up as early as Monday and just camp all week. And we go jeeping and shooting and playing radio and whatever.
Oh,
Yeah,
maybe
manly stuff.
Scott, maybe a soda opportunity.
We could do soda.
No, there will be, not might be.
If you want that Mountain Goat Award,
Right?
there we go. I heard it's not bad.
Said that, shutting the camera off.
I did say that very sheepishly, yes.
Everybody's welcome, all your family members, friends.
Absolutely.
We have kids there, we have, whole families,
Too.
everybody gets on the air.
Absolutely. How many participated? Go ahead, Robert.
I just looked at the agenda, liability waiver?
You want to give us a reminder on the liability waiver?
So, we've got a liability waiver we're implementing for 2024 going forward for the club. It's very simple, it's very straightforward, it's nothing you haven't seen a million times. We haven't got it on the webpage yet, but the idea is when you renew your membership, you'll be asked to read through and sign a liability waiver. Basically, that you won't sue us if you do something stupid. It's coming,
Yeah.
you'll see it all shortly.
Pretty good. What else did I miss?
Reader committee?
They're not here.
They're not here.
But you got anything for them? We do have, so for those of you who don't know, you do it. We have a new,
The 900, is that what you're talking about?
no,
Oh, new D-Star?
So ICOM, for those of you who don't know, ICOM had a sale a month ago, something like
Was it-
that. They're 2 meter, 70 centimeter, and 1.2 gig D-Star repeaters, Generation 3 repeaters. They had a one-day flash sale for $399. They're normally, what,